You're listening to NFT 365, the first daily podcast on NFTs with your host, Fanzo, talking crypto, blockchain, Web3, non-fungible tokens, metaverse, and...
What the is a non-fungible token?
We'll get to that.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of NFT 365. And as part of the confusion that you might have with NFTs is this idea of like, what does the business model look like? Or even that question of what is it that we are replacing with NFTs? Or maybe in some cases it's, well, how do I think about NFTs beyond, a baseball card or collecting art or even just like admission into an event or royalties? Well, I think part of this is actually into the conversation around the business model that is, NFTs as a whole, right? And where this all kind of fits in. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and really just the idea of like, where do subscription models fit in? Where does online kind of like transactions matter? And, we have to ask that question. Like if you sold out your NFT project or you bought an NFT project and every single person who bought theirs doesn't want to sell it, they love it, they want to hold on to it for forever, what does the project do from there? What is the next step? Because there's generating no secondary volume. I'm going to get into this conversation because I think there's something really interesting that we can kind of discuss and, we can ruminate on. But before we do that, of course, we have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Crypto Business Conference. Crypto Business Conference is happening in October. Super excited to be out there in San Diego. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it is for those that are looking to level up on all things Web3, creator coins, NFTs, metaverse, and much, much more. And wanted to do a quick little throwback, and it kind of fits in today's topic. Back to July 9th. It was mint number 240, and the name of the mint was the Nice Club. So Nice Club NFT is their Twitter account. And this project was, it was built by an esports brand, esports brand that has been in the space for a while. They've built a powerful community and group, and really where they're looking at it was kind of like not only are they funding the future esports kind of community and a brand, for merch and things that they go on, but really expanding the community's access to what's happening in that esports space. And so really cool project, some great art. And I will tell you, a very vibrant community that they've built inside of their Discord. So, with one of those things that being said, the problem that, if NFTs aren't generating royalties in the sense where you're not getting, money or a percentage based on holding the NFT, there is something to be said. And I was thinking about this the other day because, for those that have launched an NFT project, if someone comes up to you and is like, hey, I minted your NFT project, I haven't sold it, I haven't listed a single one of them, since I bought it, I love what you're doing. Well, as the NFT founder, you're like, sweet, we made, whatever that mint price was, let's say it was 0.3 Ethereum, and you have a very loyal fan, loyal customer that's owning your NFT. Now, let me say the flip side of this, right? Someone that says, hey, Brian, I bought your NFT, I minted it, but, I've popped in and out a couple of times. I've actually sold it. I bought a couple of them. I flipped it for a little bit of profit, but I've sold out of the project, but I just recently got back in. And when we look at their transactions, they've actually, they had the same thing, right? Minted at 0.3 Ethereum. But they've actually done 5 transactions, and within that 5 transactions, they've generated 0.5 Ethereum worth of royalties towards the project founder through 10% or let's say 7% of those royalties going back to the project. So in a way, the less loyal person that bought in and sold and flipped and then bought back in, yet in this moment right now where you're going to deliver your utility. The person that is, and I say less loyal with air quotes, but like the person that has jumped in and out of your project and been here or there has actually generated your project and you as a business, you as a brand, more revenue than the most loyal person that's been there since day one. Well, that seems kind of ass backwards if you ask me. But then, there's the different, components of this, right? Because maybe you're doing airdrops of additional NFTs. Maybe the utility that you can provide someone to hold on is different. But once again, what's in it for that person that is your loyal person? And how do you continue to build a sustainable business model without it having to be, the idea that there has to be a lot of secondary trade volume? And for me, this is interesting because, I do think there's some different, models when it comes to, how we can build the, our business case around NFTs. And I will tell you, there's the collectible component, right, where you're buying it as a collectible, much like a sporting good card or a Beanie Baby. There's the experiences component, where you're buying an NFT that unlocks different additional experiences. Now, some of those experiences could still require some financial obligation, but maybe you get a discount, or maybe you only get access if you're inside, of those walls. Of course, the other one, of course, is that word access, right? You're using that NFT and it's giving you some sort of access. And then, of course, I think of like the NFT art, right? And I think the NFT art component, I think it's different than the collectible side, because I think in this case, it's less about like the trading of it and more about like the holding of it. Like I, for one, I've probably bought, 24 one-of-one pieces from artists. And you want to know how many of those I've sold? 0. I have yet to sell one of those pieces. I bought the art. I like the art. I don't really have a motivation to sell at the moment. And a couple of them have gone way up in value. But for me, the art hasn't changed, so I still love, what the art provides. And then we have to think about like the community component, right? Which I think we often default a lot to here, where by holding that NFT, you get access to a community. But for anyone that's run a community, built a community, been a part of a community, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources to not only continue to nurture the community, but to onboard the community, to grow the community. And it also takes, community is kind of like an ever-evolving thing, right? And so you really have to be able to adapt. And I think for a lot of community-based NFT projects, one of the big problems that they run into is that as the member demographic changes, or what the members like to talk about, or what the members are there for, right? Maybe you have 4 different things that attract people into your community, into your Discord, whatever that may be. Well, what if, the community starts off, everybody is in it for the game, right? We're all in it for the game. But then we realize you're launching a metaverse component, right? So some of the people that were in it for the game sell their NFT, and now you have a lot more people that are in it for the metaverse component. Well, what happens to that, community dynamic? How do you continue to grow? How do you continue to foster this energy? And I will say, one of the things that is really interesting on this whole concept is, and I've been saying this for a long time, is I believe one of the answers to this is actually the royalty component, and royalties even more so than just kind of staking. And I know that's where staking kind of comes in, right? Where you're rewarding someone for locking their NFT into a contract. And if you don't understand staking, we have a whole episode on staking here with the podcast. But the bigger component of this that I think is really something we have to wrap our mind around is there also is like, where are you splitting those percentages? And I'm gonna do an episode upcoming on how a lot of projects break down their percentages between like how much do they share with their artist, how much do they share with their developer, what about their co-founders, what about their community manager, all of those type of things. But I actually think one of the things that also exists is that a lot of the royalty components exist through the marketplace. So you're also sharing 2.5% with OpenSea, right? So which is why I one of my predictions earlier this year was that I believe a lot of projects are going to have to build their own marketplace within their website, within their own community, because now they don't have to up the percentage fee, right? They can still get the 7% on secondary market, but 2.5% of that doesn't have to also go to OpenSea or to Coinbase NFT or to LooksRare or to any of the other ones that exist from Gem to any of those. And so part of this conversation that, I really wanted, I've been trying to, like the thing that I think is really interesting when it comes to just this whole component of, NFTs and where all of these things go is that I will tell you that, I do believe there has to be not only additional products and services, but additional revenue streams, additional value that can be provided. But I also believe we're going to have to take another look at like the quantity, right? Like how many of these that we are actually deploying out. And I will tell you, a lot of the projects that I'm advising right now, I like the idea of having Genesis or Founders collections where you initially drop 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 NFTs, and those are kind of like your OGs, your original gangsters. They're the ones that buy in with you out of the jump. But here's part of the reason is most of the value I talk about with that is because they can help you market and sell and prove the concept. But the other part of it is it'll also kind of incentivize those that are in there early because they believe to buy some additional ones, after the launch. And this is actually where, for me, it's actually an interesting downside or an interesting byproduct is that, I look at when I'm trying to buy an NFT every single day, right? I'm looking at things like what are the total volume of sales, but I'm also looking at what are the number of unique wallets that are minting the NFT. And I will tell you, like, I believe the sweet spot is like that 40 to 70% range, right? If there's 40 to 70% range, then I know there'll be enough people that are buying more than one, which means that the chance of them wanting to sell and kind of increase that volume and that virality is out there. But the other part of this is that, like, I don't look at projects as saying, 100% of the people are going to hold on to it, therefore there's not going to be any secondary royalties. But I actually think this is going to be one of those weird things that we're going to end up with is that for free projects, for projects that are dropping their NFTs for free or close to free, there is a question at a time that says, how am I encouraging? What am I doing to encourage people to buy and sell? What am I doing to encourage people to hold more than one? What am I doing to encourage, and this is where, and I hate to say it, but one of the things that I've always hated about, kind of sales or marketing or even branding is the power of polarization, right? Where in some cases by, pissing off some of your owners by making a bold decision, well, you're going to generate a volume of people that are exiting, but also because you're being bold and you're being, passionate about, this other, piece, you're probably going to attract new people into this space as well. And so I think that ever-evolving strategy on how you grow, how do you, not only how do you grow your business model, but I don't think the sustainable play is having derivatives, second, third, and fourth versions of the projects, right? And we can really blame Bored Ape Yacht Club for that, right? For the most part, it came out with Bored Ape Yacht Club. We have the Mutants. We have the Kennel Club, right? We have the other side Deebs, of course, we have the Ape Coin. And so like they've really, maybe I'm missing one there, but there's 5, strong tent poles that they've rolled out. But, each one of them it's giving more people access into the community. But what are they getting with that access, right? And I think even with the most recent noise around Moonbirds and with, I did a whole episode on the Creative Commons license or Creative Commons 0, the CC 0. The reason that I also think there's a play for having the CC0, right? Removing the intellectual property rights is that even if you're launching merchandise, let's say merchandise for your NFT holders, well, let's say Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example. Well, if you're not a Bored Ape Yacht Club holder, right? You don't own a BAYC. Are you going to buy merchandise that has a BAYC on it? Like, I don't, like, for me, like I would buy, if I owned one of the other side lands, I would probably buy an other side land merch, but I certainly would not buy Bored Ape Yacht Club merch. And so this is one where I think we are in an interesting kind of scenario right now. Now, I will tell you, if you have a product like an online course or an in real life mastermind or and you have the ability that, like, here's a great example. Maybe the NFT gets you into the VIP part of day 1 and day 2, But if you want to be a part of the main event, which is the next 3 days, you still have to buy that ticket, right? Like, or maybe you get a discount on that ticket. But there's like there's an element there. The other part is where I think this is where earn to learn, or play to earn, learn to earn, engage to learn, or even listen to earn can be one that I actually see as a model that makes sense, right? And I think part of it that is going to be hard, and this is, I'm speaking from experience here, is, we launched the ADHD coin way back in March of last year. So we're 19, 18 months into this journey. One of the things that I found that I didn't even realize was I also have to create a marketplace around the value of these ADHD coins. And so not only can people hold them and the value goes up, but they can purchase them to get access to one of our master classes. They can use them to get exclusive access to exclusive merch that, of course, they were going to still have to buy with either fiat or crypto. But the other part of it is the exchange amongst each other. And this is where I think ApeCoin is kind of setting the bar. And so I would just tell everybody that is listening right now, look at what ApeCoin is doing outside of the Ugula Labs ecosystem, right? Because there's a couple other projects. I know 10K TF had a project that they just announced with they're giving away a lot of ApeCoin to their holders. The other part of that is I look at this, and I will tell you, for part of our model is that, yes, I'm going to incentivize people to hold, but part of the problem with, and I've said this on the podcast as well, like, I have a friend who has not sold, he got a Bored Ape Yacht Club, he got a Mutant, he got, he didn't get a Kennel Club, but he did get, or he sold his Kennel Club, but he did get his other side deed. The funny thing about that is, although his whole collection is worth about $500,000, what he's been able to take to the bank is only what he sold his Bored Ape Kennel Club for a while back. And so that's part of the dilemma here, is that if all of the value is tied up in the actual holding of the NFTs, and the only way you're going to actually realize that value, right, be able to spend it, is if you sell it, we're going to end up with some really interesting scenarios. And I saw a tweet today, and someone said, and I wanted to give the person a shout out, but I can't remember. I don't think I saved the tweet. But the tweet simply said, "Man, today was a tough day. I had to sell 2 of my favorite NFTs. But the beauty part of it is I was now able to put down a 6-figure deposit on my dream house, and I'll be able to much more afford my rent." And I read that, and I was like, man, how cool is that? But then I thought about it for a minute and said, well, how much does that suck? They had to sell one of their most, prized assets, or the things that they like the most, to realize the value that it provides, so that they can then, of course, do something in that component. And so there is something to be said about on both sides, right? If you create an amazing NFT project and no one wants to sell it, the only money you're going to have to run that project is from those initial sales. And on the flip side of that is, if you love a project and you hold on to it for life, when are you going to actually realize that value, that return on that? And I know this isn't all about money, and most of you know, like, the parts where NFTs excite me the most is actually separation of, making money, the direct money value of, the NFT collectible. I look at it more of having exclusive access, right? And it's much like, it's that club. Like, when you're in New York and they're like, oh, that club only allows 500 people to have access to that, private membership, and they each get to bring 3 people. Well, that value is there every time I call up my friend and I'm like, hey, we're going to go to that club tonight. And he's like, yeah, I got you. Well, for them, that's the value, right? They're able to use that with me, and they're building social equity. The likelihood of me doing business with them probably increases, because they're sharing in something that's exclusive that only they have, but I also get to participate in. But this is where I look at, like, fraternities. I look at associations. Like, I belong to the National Speakers Association, right? The National Speakers Association, you pay your initial fee, but then you also pay yearly dues. And then you also have to pay when you attend the event, and you also have to pay to attend some of the special sessions, but you are, having that initial membership. So I do predict that we're going to see, additional the models have to really increase here. And lastly, I'll just tell you, someone asked me the other day, like, what do we need to see in this space for mass adoption? And I don't like the idea of mass adoption. I would rather, the question should be framed, if we want to grow this community or grow this, this entire space to attract the right people, what are some of the things that we need to see happen to do that? And I will tell you, the main one is successful use cases that aren't, that, hey, you just had to get in there early. And what I mean by that is, like, where are the use cases of projects that are either niche or unique? And it can't be just one or two, right? Like, I can give you a gaming one, right? Axie Infinity, right? We can give you the exclusive art PFP. We can go CryptoPunks. We can go, the Apple of this space. We can say it is the Yuga Labs component. We could throw out, the innovative, forward-thinking project in Proof Collective and Moonbirds. But we need multiples of all of those use cases so that we can relate them with more people, welcome more people in. And so, this episode for me is just more about, like, let's start thinking about this, right, as a plan, not only for your own project, but remember, if you hold an NFT in a project, you are an owner. And in a way, I feel also that we have an obligation to come up with innovative and creative things to build upon it, right? I love the NFT projects that there are people that are owners of the project that are launching a podcast. There are people that are launching a brand and merchandise, and they're building subsidiaries around that NFT collection, because, like I've said since day one, if this is a game, if this is a business model where we are giving ownership to those that have that hold the NFT, it's up to all of us to figure out, like, how do we build? What do we build? How do we generate revenue? And how do we continue to create momentum so we continue to thrive? And that could be something as simple as, how do we increase demand while also increasing supply by either being polarizing, being very definitive on what you're doing, or in some cases be very methodical with how you roll out new announcements. Because I could tell you, one could look at what Moonbirds has generated in secondary volume by coming out with kind of a polarizing stance on removing the intellectual property. They made a lot of money over the last 72 hours just based on people buying and selling into that project. And really, did they change a whole lot? No. But they definitely generated some additional revenue to continue on doing what they want to do. And as we said at the beginning of the podcast, this is powered by the Crypto Business Podcast, Crypto Business Comp podcast. There is a Crypto Business Comp podcast. It is hosted by Michael Stelzner, but there is the Crypto Business Conference that is happening October 9th to the 11th in beautiful San Diego at the San Diego Convention Hall. And you can simply just go to socialmediaexaminer.com/NFT365. You can check out the tickets there. You can also see, the amazing lineup. It's really, a lot of this is around the business case of Web3, as I kind of, shared with you here on the podcast. And it also means, like, applying what we're learning, right? The different ways that these are going to make you happen. And I will tell you, how do we get more use cases? How do we create innovative business cases? Well, we attend great events. We collaborate. We find ways to come together, co-create, co-learn, and ultimately build with each other, not build on top of each other or continue to have to build in silos. But that's a whole nother rant that I have for another day. Until tomorrow, my friends, make it a great day. Cheers.